Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by Fanside. It's MLB insider Robert Murray, and we are just a couple of days ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday, which is sometimes when things go down, and it's sometimes when agents take a break and eat turkey and pies. Either way, we're just 2 weeks ahead of the winter meetings, and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim continue to stay extremely engaged in the free agent market, even if nobody else really seems to want to. The Angels aren't waiting on Juan Soto. I'll tell you that right now. Some teams are. They are not. We will obviously talk about the latest updates, but more importantly, empty Robert's notebook to let you all know what he's hearing behind the scenes, hopefully answer your questions. I see you showing up early in the comments. Some of you showed up early in the Discord. We've got all-stars in the Discord. We're going to prioritize them. Would love to see you there or in the rumor mill tier. Either way, you get to talk to Robert and I between shows. All-stars, you get private Q&As. Robert reserves an hour block of time and answers your questions. First one last week went super well. It was wild. Either way, here to talk about more is Robert Murray himself. Robert, what's up, dude?
How are we doing? I can confirm Adam's report, by the way, that the Q&A in the Discord ended up going very well last week, so I could not recommend more joining that so you can ask questions and be part of the dialogue and all that good stuff. But coming off of a big Philadelphia Eagles win last night, Saquon Barkley doing his thing. Slept in this morning, and the first thing I saw when I woke up was John Heyman's tweet that the Angels signed Kikuchi. We have plenty of thoughts on that, have a lot of thoughts on some of these non-tenders. One in particular really caught my attention, but I am ready to break it down with you, Adam. And before we do that, I got to ask, how are you doing?
I'm good. Is that a Saquon Barkley related question? Asking me how I'm doing?
Oh, that's absolutely, yeah. Because I watched that game last night, and I'm like, you know what? I was reading your tweets, and I was like, you know what? I'll just send Adam just a hi.
Yeah. Yeah, if you think the Baseball Insiders don't chirp each other off air, then you're 100% incorrect. Yeah, look, two things are true at the same time. Saquon Barkley, phenomenal football player, and the New York Giants are a dumpster fire of an organization. But also, they shouldn't have signed him. I don't see any reason why the New York Giants should have paid Saquon Barkley. The Eagles it's a great contract. He's one of the cheapest players on their offense. He should win NFL MVP this year, in my opinion. But there's like a dead cap number buried at the end of it. You're paying an aging running back, which is what you do if you're a team like the Eagles that competes for a Super Bowl, and is what you don't do if you're a team like the Giants that could have not paid Saquon Barkley and been 2-9, or paid Saquon Barkley and been 3-8, and then they'd be wasting Saquon Barkley's prime. And everybody was throwing around yesterday, oh my gosh, he's going to pass his career high in yardage, and it's only week 11. And they were using that like an FU to the Giants. And to me, it was like, yeah, it seems like he was way worse on the Giants with an inferior offensive line and worse teammates, and he was injured all the time. Like, I don't know. Seems like he got out, and it's a brighter situation for him. And seems like the New York Giants are a terrible football team that would be a terrible football team with or without him. Unfortunately, Eagles are the Giants' rival. Although also not really, because they stomped the Giants for a decade and a half, 2 decades now. So kind of a rivalry. Also not really.
No, not really a rivalry, but I'm just glad that Saquon is on our side now. Feels good. Feels really good. But yeah, I'm ready for next week. I'm ready. I'm also ready for some baseball talk, because we got plenty of stuff. I also want to talk about Kyle Finnegan, man. I'm chomping at the bit on this one.
Let's start there, because we know, hey, we already did the Discord plug. I want to give everybody the Moonshot Read again. If you're not subscribed, that's our weekly baseball email newsletter where the Fanside and MLB team, including Robert Murray, breaks down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, behind-the-scenes info. Sign up. Also become a member of the YouTube channel. That's how you get the Discord perk. We've had some people asking us, hey, where's the link to the Discord? You get it by joining the YouTube channel. Also, you might as well like and subscribe. We're here live every Monday and Thursday at 3:30 Eastern, or usually, but in the off-season, Monday and Friday. And then Wednesday at 1 o'clock, which we'll be back here. That'll be our last show before Thanksgiving. If you've got questions over the holiday, take to the Discord. We will not be live on Friday. I guess we might scramble if something crazy happens, but I would not expect us to be live over the holiday, to be perfectly honest with everybody here. So come prepared Wednesday. Bring your questions. Otherwise, we'll see you in the Discord. And we will answer your questions. We'll talk about the latest news. But let's start with the non-tenders, because free agency opened its doors a little bit wider on Friday. Any names wind up in that market that surprised you? And does anybody have a robust market already? Either way, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I found out about 2 hours before the tender deadline that Kyle Finnegan was a very real candidate to be non-tendered. And I did not believe it, but my source on it is as good as it gets. And I asked him, like, are you kidding? And he said, no, this is a real thing. And people in Discord can confirm I put it in there, and the reaction was about as you'd expect. That was pure shock. But I was still skeptical that it would ultimately end up happening. But it did. And to me, that is organizational malpractice by the Washington Nationals. You had a guy who at the last couple deadlines received really strong interest, and you held on to him, and you were thinking about having him as your long-term piece in the back end of the bullpen, or you were trying to hold out for a bigger package in the offseason or just in general. And you hold on to him for these 2 deadlines, and then all of a sudden you non-tender him and you get nothing in return, and now he goes to free agency. That, to me, the Nationals have a really good thing going. Like, I want to make that abundantly clear. Like, they're going to be a franchise that's going to be really, really good before too long. But to me, that was organizational malpractice. And I heard from so many different executives around the league, even other agents, who were just absolutely stunned by that. I would expect, based on my reactions, or the reactions that I've received around the league, and also his pedigree and his experience, he's going to end up having a very strong market. And I think it was a huge mistake by the Nationals to non-tender him. I do see Hobie Milner as someone in the comments here mentioned as a surprise non-tender. That did not necessarily surprise me. He was really, really good in 2023 at an ERA under 2, but last year he had an ERA like hovering around like 4.7 in the 5 range. And he's projected to make about $2.7 million this year. He was their 3rd left-handed reliever out of the bullpen in Milwaukee. To me, that always made sense. Like, that was a move that was kind of destined to happen. So it didn't really catch me off guard there. I think the other really notable one was Brendan Rodgers. And that was a difficult decision for the Rockies to make. Obviously, he was extremely highly touted coming up, and was supposed to be part of their future. And if you look at his splits, he was very good at home, but away from Coors Field, not so good. And he was a candidate to be non-tendered for sure. And my alarm bells kind of really ended up rising once I found out early last week that the Rockies were signing Kyle Farmer, which finally that mystery's been answered. So that is indeed the one I've been teasing on this show. But once I found out Farmer was going to end up going to Colorado, that kind of spelled the end for somebody in Colorado, and I thought maybe it could be Rodgers. So I would expect him to have a good market, but the one that really caught me off guard was Finnegan. And I know a lot of people around baseball, some very prominent people, were very surprised by that.
It does feel like the Nationals have been building to something, but yeah, this is, look, even the best rebuilding jobs end up hitting weird snags, and this was an unforced error. Rodgers, it's funny, depending on how you break it down, you can talk yourself into it or talk yourself out of it. Against lefties in limited duty last year, 144 plate appearances, hit .311 with an 818 OPS. So you can look at that and say, I need a platoon option, pay him $4 million. I mean, that makes sense for plenty of contenders. But the home road splits, 328 with an 888 OPS at home, 571 OPS, 214 average on the road, and 49 Ks at home and 83 on the road. So you expect the power to go down when he leaves Coors Field, but to strike out almost twice as many times on the road in very similar sample sizes, I mean, loves that Coors Field batter's eye. That would scare me. It depends on if you have, the budget to blow on taking a chance on a former top 10 prospect in all of baseball. I understand both sides, though. I get why the Rockies moved on. And I would understand someone picking him up for a platoon audition of some kind. You could look up and see him as a great Cardinal. Like, you could just look up and be like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Or you could see him having trouble adjusting. I would be able to understand both outcomes.
No, absolutely. And he'll latch on somewhere else. I would expect him to have a pretty strong market because, he's still young. He's talented. You would expect he'll go somewhere else. And I think a different coaching staff and some different voices can end up doing some really good things for him and help him out. So I think this is not the last we'll hear about Brendan Rodgers by any means. Also, I'm glad that Noah asked us this one about Jacob Webb. It has nothing to do with LeBron's legacy, first of all, but
Sure.
Good question, Noah. But I was caught off guard that the Orioles did that one. I thought he was going to be in somebody that they like his production. He's cheap. And when they non-tendered him, immediately my first question was, oh, he's got to be hurt. Like, what's the issue there? Did some digging. Jacob Webb is completely healthy. I don't know exactly what their thinking was there. Maybe they have some different options in mind. But that one kind of made me scratch my head. But Webb is fully healthy to my knowledge, and I'd expect him to have a nice market as well.
Yeah, maybe they thought they were non-tendering Madam Web, the Dakota Johnson shitty movie. I don't know. That's a lot up for grabs here. I don't know, but robust market for a few of these folks, and obviously we'll keep you posted on Kyle Finnegan destinations as we learn a little bit more. Let's dive into some quick hits. A lot of questions, so I want to get through the headlines of the weekend as quickly as we can. Yusei Kikuchi is a Los Angeles Angel of Anaheim. So is every other free agent who has signed so far this offseason. Why are the Angels so active, making so much noise, and how does this fit into their grand plan?
Yeah, if you've been watching this show, you've heard me consistently say that the Angels were going to be one of the most aggressive teams this offseason, and that they were targeting anything and everything. They were targeting catching, they were targeting starting pitching, bullpen, infield, outfield, you name it, they were targeting it. And starting pitching was going to be one where they were going to add multiple options. And they ended up doing it, first of all, getting Kyle Hendricks on a cheap one-year deal, a veteran player who is going to end up being really good for the development for those young guys that they have there. Don't necessarily know how much he has left in the tank as far as like innings go or eating innings go. But Kikuchi is the impact signing, and they were never, I never considered them to be a strong candidate to sign like a Corbin Burns or a Blake Snell or a Max Fried or anyone like that. But Kikuchi always made sense to me, or just that level of a starter, I should say. And the 3 years, $63 million contract falls right in line with what a lot of industry observers ended up like having him at. So it was not an overpay by any means, but it also, to me, I thought it was a really strong signing by the Angels. I thought it continues what, to me, feels like an offseason where they're coming in with a clear plan, where they wanted to add somebody around Logan O'Hoppe. They also wanted to add some power to the lineup and getting Jorge Soler, and I still don't believe they're done in doing that. But they also wanted to add some pieces to that rotation, which has always been a question mark, or not always, but for the most part in recent seasons. But to me, they're not done. I would expect the Angels to continue to be aggressive in trying to upgrade that roster, because if you look at it, where they were after last season, there was a lot of holes. There remains holes on that roster. And my conversations with people in Anaheim today suggest that they are still not sleeping. They are still trying to get that roster better. I expect them to continue to make moves. But as far as the rotation goes, my belief is that this is their big move there, unless one of those bigger options ends up coming down to a price where it's kind of just too good to be true. But to me, great job by the Angels. I'm really like, it's very rare that you'll hear me praise the Angels on this podcast, but job well done by Perry. So far, so good.
Well, if you keep showing up to enough streams, eventually we'll get to one where Robert does praise the Angels, and that day is today. So good for all the Angels fans in the crowd. Look, here's your daily, every episode, Juan Soto update. Chris Hall asks, when is the Mets Soto press conference? I'm hearing the 45th of February. Recent Ian asking, do people believe the Mets are the frontrunners specifically because of money? Bob Nightingale basically said as much today, saying the Mets are the clear-cut favorites, but the justification was that executives just feel like, well, I mean, how is anyone going to outbid Steve Cohen? Like, how are they not the favorites? It's basically what we've known for a very long time, but it doesn't take into account the nuance of things quite so much. But what we are hearing relatively concretely is that the get-to-know-you phase is over. The Red Sox, Blue Jays, Mets, and Yankees move on, and now here come the offers over the next week, over the next 2 weeks. Just to gauge what you're hearing, is that pretty much in line with what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think, to me, because Buster Olney was the one who ended up reporting that the offers were going to start getting to like the initial offer stage. And that tracks to me because what's coming here in 2 weeks is the winter meetings. And to me, that is in line with Soto possibly signing around that time. And that has always made the most sense to me and to a lot of people around baseball, is because Boris is going to want as much spotlight on this as possible. He's not going to want to have this like drag too long, because he's also got plenty of other free agents who are going to be held up by the Soto sweepstakes here, because a lot of these teams are going to be involved in like the other players that Boris represents if they don't get Soto. And like the initial meetings were always just to get to know like the team, get to know ownership, get to know the leadership and everything that goes into that franchise. It was never about offers, but now, according to Buster, I have not confirmed this on my end. I just want to make that abundantly clear. The offers are going to start coming in, and we'll see exactly where they're at. But as far as a leader goes, I do think the Mets are the favorite for Juan Soto. And it comes down to, they present an opportunity where winning is a real thing. But also my thinking there just comes down to Steve Cohen and his ability to outbid any owner in baseball. Like, that's what happens when you have pockets as deep as Steve Cohen. And when he wants a player, he can outbid anyone for that player. And that's not me saying like the Mets are indeed the favorite for Soto. Like, that is not what I'm saying. But Cohen's ability to outspend anyone is what has everyone kind of thinking, okay, yeah, the Mets really might be the team to beat here. So we'll see. But I'm glad the sweepstakes is moving along, and maybe we end up getting that decision by the winter meetings time or somewhere around that. And then if that happens while we're all in Dallas, it is going to be pure chaos. And I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, that's what we want. It stands to reason. I think Steve Cohen hasn't really launched that bullet yet. He stayed out of the Aaron Judge bidding. This is a different level of bidding. That one got to $400 million or whatnot. Like, Soto is 26 years old. This one's going to be double that. And we'll see. But I think, yeah, Cohen is the favorite until proven otherwise. Hal Steinbrenner knows what he has to do. And we'll see if he's able to match a Steve Cohen offer. Many think he will not be able to, and I think that's why he is viewed the way that he is currently viewed.
And I want to make another comment here. Jamie D. I have not forgotten how rich the Rodgers. I have not forgotten how rich the Rodgers family is. Like that. No. Not even like the reason why I do not think that the Jays are the favorites here is for the reasons I've stated on previous shows. Is you look at the Blue Jays, they are in a very different situation than the New York Mets, because the Mets are coming off of a season where they almost advanced to the World Series. They have a strong foundation in place, especially with Francisco Lindor, signed long-term. And if you look at the Blue Jays, they're coming off of a very underwhelming season. You have Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette entering the final years of their contract, and there's been, by all accounts, no progress on any extension talks there whatsoever. And Soto wants to be highly compensated, which works in the favor of Rodgers and like in the Blue Jays there. But he also wants to win, and the Blue Jays, to me, do not look like a team that is close to contending, because they have a lot of holes to fill this offseason. And Soto it's not just like a sign Soto and everything's gonna be okay. If they sign Soto, they would need to add 5, 6, 7 other players, and then you can end up looking at a contender. And that's a lot to get done in one off season.
Yes. And I love the discussion going on in the comments right now. I got to say, might get aggregated. Who knows? I agree with E&P over MOC baseball right now. I think the Red Sox are better positioned to give Juan Soto what he desires in the long term than the Mets are. I think the Mets have the financial wherewithal to solve their problems and any problems that arise. But I like the foundation of the Red Sox, complete with the young players, more than I like what the Mets currently have working. The Mets can change that by doing this a bunch of times, but I got to say, that's where I'm at. I think the Yankees have a lot to offer. I think the Mets have a lot of money to offer. I think the Red Sox can't be discounted because of the foundation that they've laid and continue to develop and graduate to the big league level. And that brings us to, we had a few people asking Red Sox questions. There were some wonky Red Sox rumors this weekend that I wanted to touch on. That they were thinking about a Rafael Devers move to first per Sean McAdam. Nolan Arenado was floated as a third base option. They were talking about moving Tristan Casas for pitching. I think a lot of other fan bases would like to take advantage of a player like Tristan Casas. What are you hearing about Boston outside of the Juan Soto of it all?
Yeah, Boston is just, they're considering a lot of different things. And what Sean McAdam reported is also in line with what Ken Rosenthal and John Heyman have written in recent weeks, is that Rafael Devers is a candidate to move to first base. To me, I don't think there's anything that's like done or finalized there. But they're being very creative internally with what exactly they're exploring and thinking about. And that comes with the territory of being aggressive in free agency. And we've even seen guys like Jeff Passan speculate that the Red Sox could even be involved for trying to get two of these starting pitchers, whether it's a Garrett Crochet and then signing a Blake Snell or a Max Fried or someone like that. Is the Red Sox, they're going to be aggressive. They're considering a lot of different things. Just because they're talking about it internally does not necessarily mean it's going to happen. The amount of internal conversations that teams have about extremely different and wide-ranging scenarios is more than we can even fathom. But it's encouraging to hear the Red Sox talking like this, because I think it's just another sign that they're going to spend. If I will go on the record right now with saying this too. If I was a Red Sox, I would not trade Tristan Casas, not at all, because I think, to me, if you look at him, if he reaches his potential, he's a 40-homer guy, and that would be a very difficult piece to trade, especially when he's only beginning his career. He's going to be signed long-term for cheap. Dangerous game to play. I don't think they'll do it, but I mean, we'll see. Stranger things have happened, but if I was a Red Sox, I would not do that.
Yeah, it's encouraging to see the Red Sox talk about spending. Discouraging to me personally, but should be encouraging to you if you're a Boston Red Sox fan or hate the baseball team that I root for, which is a lot of people. Gonna go to the questions now, and starting with the Discord All-Stars. Baron Dionis asked if the Pirates pitching depth, which we know has made some buzz, has there been any talk about the Pirates on the trade market so far? I think that's a valid question to follow this discussion with, because if Casas is available, that's an incredible long-term fit in Pittsburgh, and they have all this pitching. They have Jared Jones in the big league rotation. They have Bubba Chandler, Thomas Harrington, Solometo, who was on foul territory today. Like, there's a lot of names that if you're thinking about offense for pitching, the Pirates can give that to you, and the Red Sox can use it. They just hooked up for Nick York and Quinn Priester,
yeah,
a couple of months ago. So felt like a natural transition, but any Pirates trade talk thoughts?
Adam, you bum. I was going to mention that exact trade. So you just stole my thunder. How could you do that?
Goat. I'm the GOAT. Everyone knows I'm the GOAT. Sometimes you just look, I've been behind a bad O-line for so long, and then you let me out in space, and I look like Saquon Barkley. What can I say?
All roads lead back to Saquon, baby. But as far as the Pirates go, I would expect them to be involved in trade conversations, whether it's looking for a guy to play first base or just to fill any of their holes, and especially guys who are going to be signed cheap, because as I've stated on this podcast, I do not believe the Pirates have overly a lot of payroll flexibility. I think it's pretty minimal. So it's going to force Ben Cherington in that front office to be creative, and end up having to, I don't want to use the phrase bargain bin shopping, but kind of not far off. And it's really discouraging, because if you look at that team, they have so many different ingredients to be a very good team. And I'm saying this is not going to happen. I feel pretty confident in that, unless Bob Nutting does something that I don't think anybody in baseball would ever foresee from him. But if I was Bob Nutting, I would authorize that front office to go out and sign Pete Alonso, or go out and sign any of these big name first basemen, or go out and trade for a first baseman as well. Because you need impact players. You want to maximize the Paul Skeens in that rotations window. You have the foundation in place, supplement it with a star, and you're going to see people flocking to Pittsburgh. And it's not going to just be days where Paul Skeens is starting, where the crowd's going to be filled up. If you go out and sign a star, you're going to have way more full stands than they currently are on non-Paul Skeens starting days. But I just would not expect the Pirates to be adding a big salary. I just think it's going to be lower salary guys in free agency and trade. So I would expect them to explore both of those markets pretty extensively.
Well, Brian De La Cruz is available for cheap if they want to. Oh, wait, never mind. Gonna go to the questions in the comments now, going down as many as we can. And again, check in with us in the Discord between shows if we don't get to yours, or check in on Wednesday when we'll be back live on the air. Set your notifications, turn that bell on, and join us when we go live. Johnny has asked this question a few times, so I want to ask about the Cubs, who it's been hinted at they are looking to shed payroll. It was noted in Nightingale's column today that the fact that they're shopping Cody Bellinger was the worst kept secret at the GM meetings. And obviously it's no longer a secret. It has leaked out pretty significantly into the mainstream discourse. So thoughts on the Cubs shedding payroll versus adding it this offseason?
Yeah, I hope for the Cubs' sake that they don't end up like shedding payroll to the point where it's going to be lower than it was last year. Because last year when the season ended, their roster, they needed reinforcements and they needed to get better. And where they were at the end of last year was not even close. And I think shedding salary, like potentially shedding a Cody Bellinger salary, does not mean that they would end up shedding salary like in general. I think they just want to move on from that contract and try to invest it in different parts of the roster, whether it's the rotation, whether it's the bullpen, whether it's to add another bat or two to the lineup. Maybe it's all of the above. I don't know, but I would expect the Cubs to spend. I still just have not, like, maybe I'm missing something. I mean, it's entirely possible because I missed stuff before. I'll miss stuff in the future. Like it's what happens. But I have not heard the Cubs linked to any of these big names, which is unfortunate because, I mean, you go out and give Craig Counsell that contract and you don't go out and get stars. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It's frustrating. It's an odd strategy. I think that falls more on ownership than it does a guy like Jed Hoyer or Carter Hawkins. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily think the payroll is lower than it was last year, but we'll see. The Cubs are a very unique organization when it comes to operating.
Gonna go with MLB deadline news here, asking if we've heard anything about the Twins. Assuming payroll remains constant this year as the franchise is in flux, it's a nice core that could use another starter. And I ask this question not just because MLB deadline news is here all the time, sup, but because it feels like the Twins are being left behind as a division favorite, probably entering last year. Didn't make the postseason. Tigers do and advance. Guardians do and make it to the ALCS. Everyone loves their young core. The Royals spent last year. They're spending again this year. They trade for Jonathan India. They re-sign Waka. And meanwhile, the Twins just sort of hanging out there with Pablo Lopez and having, players retire, outfielders retire early. Alex Kirilloff is retired from Major League Baseball. So any thoughts on the Minnesota Twins, directions they can take as they explore a sale of this franchise as well?
Yeah, I think as far as the Twins go, I would not anticipate them adding a big name this offseason unless something changes specifically with the ownership there. I don't think Derek Falvey is going to have a whole lot of flexibility when it comes to adding a bigger name. I think he's going to end up having to continue to do what he's done in previous off seasons, and that's kind of just adding guys on the margins or just whatever. But I think adding another rotation piece makes sense for sure. I just would kind of temper expectations for the Twins as long as this current ownership group is the group that's in place there. I also want to, Justin, I'm coming at you again, man. I'm coming at you again. I saw your comment about nobody wants to go to Pittsburgh. I can tell you that is false. The Pirates, they have a really good thing going there. They have Paul Skeens, who is one of the most exciting pitchers in baseball. They have Jared Jones. They have Mitch Keller. They play in a ballpark that is widely viewed as one of the best in baseball. It's a great city in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of good things going on in Pittsburgh. They're ascending for sure. The only real bad thing is the ownership there, specifically Bob Nutting, because he is not giving that front office a lot of flexibility to work with. But there's a lot of pieces there that intrigue players around the league. I think if they spent more, players would absolutely be wanting to go there and being part of this crew that's led by Skeens. But I just wanted to address that because the notion that nobody wants to go to Pittsburgh is categorically false. And honestly, it's dumb.
Tristan Casas wants to go to Pittsburgh, so I've heard.
That is not a report. That is not a report.
Yeah. Again, aggregate me all you want. I'm like oh no, don't aggregate me. Definitely, if you do, make sure you tag my handle. No, that is not a report. That's not real. It's just fun. Well, great. Thank you for asking these cues. Showtime LA, and also Justin has been asking about the Dodgers, so might as well just combine this. We've heard about the Red Sox being on these top starting pitchers. We've seen the Dodgers connected to Burns specifically, and also they're always going to be connected to the big names on the market. But Showtime LA asking if they're going hard after one of these starting pitchers, Burns, Snell, Fried, the LA native. And I'm going to combine that with George Corey, who asked about the Giants and earlier questions about, hey, where are the Giants on Adames? Where are the Giants on Snell? So I'm comboing the Dodgers and Giants, two teams that have wildly different ambitions, I would say, this offseason, but might butt heads over a few of the same targets. What are you hearing in the National League West?
Yeah, as far as the Dodgers go, like they are going to continue to be connected to a lot of these bigger stars, obviously. Like that's just the nature that comes with having the offseason they did last year and making a lot more off of Shohei Ohtani, and then they expected, and also winning the World Series. I would be pretty surprised if Soto ended up going there. But as far as like as what I've heard is their priorities are starting pitching and outfield, and whether it's a Teoscar Hernandez for the outfield, because he's made it abundantly clear that he wants to return to LA, or if you go out and sign one of the top tier starting pitchers, I would not rule that out at all. I expect the Dodgers to be like aggressive. That's just what they do. But I don't know. I'm kind of just I'm waiting and seeing on them because they're being very quiet right now. I don't know what to make of that, but that is kind of my read on them right now. As far as the Giants go, like if you've watched the show before, we've said that their priority is upgrading the up the middle options that they have there. Ha-Seong Kim has been someone that they have talked about with Scott Boras, his agent. Willie Adames, I believe, is someone that they've had conversations about. And that's not surprising at all because those are the top two guys that can upgrade their up the middle options there. As far as I have heard, I don't believe anything is close there. My understanding is that the market is going to be mostly quiet until after Thanksgiving. We'll see if that ultimately ends up changing. I mean, I would doubt it, but maybe like a signing or two sneaks through the wire before Thanksgiving. But I think the bulk of the activity, especially the talks, are going to start heating up after Thanksgiving and then leading up into the winter meetings. But I don't think anything is close there for the Giants as far as Kim or Adames.
Let's focus on the Blue Jays for a minute because we talked about them a little bit earlier in the show. Hearing Ryan asking about non-Soto Blue Jays rumors and maybe Alec Boehm. I'm going to use this to focus on Alec Boehm because I think we're all thinking about he might get dealt last week. Maybe the Royals are a fit. They grabbed Jonathan India. I don't know if they still are. Brady Singer obviously goes to Cincinnati. So thoughts on both the Blue Jays non-Soto pursuits and about, hey, where the destinations are getting narrowed to for Alec Boehm. Could Toronto be a fit?
I think Toronto could absolutely be a fit there. And if you look at the Blue Jays, though, it's you look at them and they need infield help. They need pitching, like starting pitching help. They need bullpen reinforcements, especially after non-tendering Jordan Romano. They're going to be connected to a lot of different things. They're going to be involved in a lot of different markets because that's just the current state of where things are at right now with the Blue Jays. So all I can say is that they're involved in a lot of different markets. I expect them to continue to have those conversations and add pieces all around the roster because if they don't, then they're going to be in a very similar situation to what ended up happening last year. But as far as Juan Soto goes, like they are involved in that. I know you said non-Soto rumors, but that is, I mean, we got to talk about Soto when it comes to the Jays because they're involved in that. But I would be pretty surprised if he ended up going to Toronto. And then after that, I think we're going to get more clarity on who exactly their targets are, what their priorities are, and then they're going to be able to operate from there. Oh, I also want to answer this question from MLB Deadline News. Mm-hmm. And then I think maybe we can close her. But hard-hitting questions. Favorite Thanksgiving dish? Adam, go.
Yeah, I was going to end on this as well. So 100% aligned. Favorite Thanksgiving dish? A really well-made stuffing, like a good stuffing, not just like a low quality out of the box. But mashed potatoes and gravy, probably like a very simple number one, like way too easy, but also delicious. My dad does a cranberry sauce with jalapenos. Chef recommend. Really fucking good. But what about you?
I would go with pumpkin pie. That's pretty basic, but pumpkin pie is an elite dish. It's 12 out of 10. My buddy Josh, I got to give him a shout out on the podcast here. He made a wonderful sweet potato souffle for Friendsgiving the other day. It was absolutely incredible. So shout out to Josh. He did good work there making that. But as far as the rest of the dishes go, stuffing to me is overrated. Mashed potatoes, take it or leave it. I'm not really the biggest guy there. I think turkey is trash. I'm firing on all cylinders right now.
I agree. Turkey is not our strongest effort at creating a food, to be perfectly honest.
No, it's a dry bird. It's tasteless, and it just like nobody like sits down, eats turkey, and enjoys it. They're just like putting on putting on an act there, and I've had enough of it. I got to put a stand to that on the Baseball Insiders here. No, like this is not we do not support turkey on this podcast. I could go on for a while about that, but I don't want to bore listeners with my food takes.
I understand. I do think turkey, it's a filler. Like, and it also like, hey, think about it. Like, all right, here's a food for you to eat. You're going to eat it. You're not going to enjoy it that much. Your favorite part's going to be the gravy. And then after you eat it, you're going to fall asleep. It's like a medicine that makes you fall asleep. Okay. Yeah, not for me. Although will I be consuming it in a couple days? Absolutely. And will we see you again before Thanksgiving? Yes, as well. Wednesday, turn your notifications on. Join us. Subscribe. We would love to have you on the last show before Thanksgiving. Any updates? Any questions? Robert, go for it.
So I just I opened up Twitter and I see the Twins tweet. We have made the following scheduled trade with the Rays. I saw just trade. I'm thinking, oh, we got ourselves a trade during the podcast here, but they traded home series. So that is, I don't know if I've ever seen teams trade home series before, but that is a first for me. I can't believe I didn't get that scoop first. I am devastated. I'm going to have to work my sources a little bit harder to provide that kind of content for you guys. So my apologies for not breaking the schedule trade.
Yeah, well, you know what? It is what it is. I'm trying to make sense of that schedule as well. I saw that. It just sort of floated past my eyes, and I went, oh, okay, deeply strange. But that's what happens when you're playing at a minor league stadium, and you may be moving. Also, you might not have a major league stadium in the future. I don't know. We'll talk about the Rays stadium when we get a chance to.
No, for sure. And also, Drew, nothing new on the Padres since we last talked about the Padres. That is currently where we're at.
The Padres have traded Eguy Rosario for Zach Geloff. You can credit me as well.
Adam's sources over here. Drew, yeah, that didn't happen, Drew.
That's causing chaos, unfortunately. Look, hey, maybe I got a meal in me. Thanksgiving meal, I start creating less chaos. Who knows? But we'll see you on Wednesday, right back here. Turn those notifications on. We'll be answering more of your questions and updating you on the goings on of the rumor mill. Until then, take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.